guys hear me? Okay, perfect. Thank you guys. Thank you to the drummers. But a good evening. Welcome to this year's Kwanzaa Celebration. We appreciate your patience as we get started today. My name is Renaya, and I'm the Black Student Union President.
Hello, everybody. My name is Hannah Beauchamp Pope, and I'm the Vice President of the Black Student Union.
Hello, I'm Sierra Slaughter. I'm the Secretary of the Black Student Union.
Hi, I'm Alicia Yana Bar. I am Social Media Coordinator for Black Student Union.
And we just want to thank you for being here with us today, both in person and virtually. So thank you.
Next, we would like to welcome our very own Chancellor Alexander to the stage to start our evening with our land acknowledgement. Thank you, Chancellor Alexander.
Thank you, Anna. It's great to be with you all tonight. Manhattan University was thrilled and excited to hear from the community to be with us to share in the celebration. So it's great to be with you tonight. As we begin all of our events, I'd like to read the land acknowledgement. We at the University of Wisconsin-Green Bay acknowledge the First Nations people who are the original inhabitants of the region. The Ho-Chunk Nation and the Menominee Nation are the first people of Wisconsin, and both nations have ancient historical and spiritual connections to the land that our institution now resides upon. Today, Wisconsin is home to 12 First Nations communities, including the Oneida Nations of Wisconsin, Forest County Potawatomi, Ojibwe Nation communities, Stockbridge Munsee Community Band of the Mohican Indians, and the Brothertown Indian Nation. We acknowledge the First Nation people of Wisconsin. Thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor Alexander, for reading our land acknowledgement and your thoughtful remarks. We want to now welcome Dr. Akapo to the stage to lead us in our libation ceremony. Dr. Akapo is a distinguished member of the faculty here at UW Green Bay. His teaching experience varies from teaching undergraduate courses in public relations and business ethics to master-level social work courses in settings from small private universities to a large public university. He is well-versed with a full range of educational courses in public and social welfare policy, as well as social work practice. His work experience is in the fields of children, youth, and families.
Thank you. My stand has been very brief. Yeah, from where I come from, in the West African region, the former Africa in general, we always open everything with libation. Libation to the Great Spirit, to our ancestors, and of course for everyone present. So I'm gonna do what have been handed down to us from our grandparents, and of course from our ancestors. And crowd, whenever I pour the water down, you can join the young women here to say, I say with me. That means Amen. Okay. Great Spirit, the omnipotent and omnipresent. It's your word that where two or three are gathered, there you are in their midst. We are gathered here as a community, both in person and virtual, and we acknowledge your presence as a to the Ho-Chunk and Menominee people, the first of this land on which our university stands. We invite you to join this celebration of first fruit of our labor, Kwanzaa, for progress, peace, and unity among the people of the earth. Say, to our ancestors, you fought a good fight for our existence. Because of you, we are here and standing. I invoke your spirit to be part of this celebration. I say, for our elders, custodians of our history and rich heritage, we respect and honor you. I say, for our youth, who represent the future and the continuation of our rich tradition, I greet you. To our leaders of this great institution, Chancellor and his team, who promote diversity and inclusivity, we thank you. I say, for our Lieutenant Governor, person of vision and courage, who accept to grace occasion, pray for wisdom, and we ask our ancestors and the Great Spirit to guide you. I say, for all the people around here who are gathered here today, and also virtually on the screens watching this celebration, may the Emoja, the principle of unity, guide you in all you do. Say, for the motherland, cross civilization, the origin of humankind, the land of great queens and kings, we honor and respect you. As I pour this libation, in the name of the Great Spirit, may wisdom, peace, love, and unity be our portion. I said before me and others, so shall it be. You can let it go.
One important part of Kwanzaa, as we may know, is the Libation Ceremony, where we light each of the 7 candles. Each of the 7 candles represents the important principle of unity, self-determination, collective work and responsibility, cooperative economics, purpose, creativity, and faith. Now we will be stating the 7 principles.
Umaja, unity, to strive for and maintain unity in the family, community, nation, and race.
Kuti Chagalia, to define ourselves, name ourselves, create for ourselves, and speak for ourselves.
Ujamaa, collective work and responsibility, to build and maintain our community together and make our brothers and sisters problems our problems and solve problems together.
Ujamaa, cooperative economics, to build and maintain our own stores, shops, and other businesses, and to profit from them together. This is our 2021 theme. Ase.
Nia, purpose, to make our collective vocation the building and developing of our community in order to restore our people to their traditional greatness.
Kumba, creativity, to do always as much as we can in the way we can in order to leave our community more beautiful and beneficial than we inherited. say?
Imani, faith, to believe with all our hearts in our people, our parents, our teachers, our leaders, and the righteousness and victory of our struggle.
There we go. Thank you, thank you. And that concludes our candle lighting.
Leading us in that beautiful libation ceremony. We now would like to invite Dr. King to the stage to formally welcome us to this event. Thank you, Dr. King.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Corey King, and I'm the Vice Chancellor for University Inclusivity and Student Affairs. I think I have one of the most phenomenal jobs at the institution because I get to work with students every day, and they are simply amazing. I'm excited to thank all of you for participating in this wonderful celebration, for those of you who are physically in the room and those of you who are joining us virtually. The University of Wisconsin-Green Bay Kwanzaa Celebration is student-led, student-centered community event. I want to stop for a moment and pause for you to join me in celebrating the students of our institution, and more importantly, the Black Student Union and its leadership for taking time through all of this pandemic, in classes and upcoming final exams, in their commitment and their resilience toward their academic success, and still finding time to host this wonderful community celebration. We salute you. We also thank the faculty and staff that also worked with the Black Student Union to make this a success, including the staff from the Multi-Ethnic Student Affairs and from our Student Engagement Center. We also recognize Wisconsin's Lieutenant Governor, as well as UW Green Bay's Chancellor, for your support of this important event tonight. The Kwanzaa celebration was first hosted at UW Green Bay in 1997, and this year we continue with that great celebration. It is through cultural programs and activities that are vital to the mission of our institution that we continue to show our commitment to inclusivity and open access. So we are pleased tonight for faculty, staff, students, and the community at large for joining us tonight in this important celebration of the holiday season. Thank you all for coming tonight, and thank you again to the Black Student Union for hosting this wonderful event.
Okay, and now we will be doing testimonials about like what Kwanzaa means to us. So this year I know that the theme is economics, and to me like this theme hits home just because COVID-19 like really did some damage to like black owned businesses specifically. And so last year I know that I shared a story where I took a month out to to support black owned businesses, to just like invest more money into them, and just to see like the appreciation that they had just let me know like putting money back into our community is just very important, and just like it helps us like as a community build together. So that's just a short story about what this year's theme specifically means to me. So
Overall, for Kwanzaa means that I get a chance to celebrate my own culture. I grew up with an absent dad in my life, and I didn't really get to learn and educate myself on what the African American community goes through and all of the cultures. And as I got older, I got to be a part of BSU, which is amazing, and then also be a part of Kwanzaa. And I didn't even know what Kwanzaa was a couple years ago, but thank you guys all for coming to Kwanzaa.
So Kwanzaa for me is an opportunity for me to celebrate my African heritage as an African American woman. I like to reflect on the 7 principles and take some time to see how did the year go? Have I been building upon these principles and the values that I have? This year, Ujamaa, Cooperative Economics, is our theme, and we should take into consideration that not only are African Americans disproportionately affected through generational wealth and other things like that, but we have an opportunity right now as we're rebuilding from the pandemic to support Black-owned businesses and really be conscious about what we do with our money. Rather than giving it to corporations, we should be giving it to small local businesses and help our community grow. Thank you.
Asia Rogers is a 4th-year theater major and vocal performer who is not able to join us this evening. We want to thank her for this recording rendition of Lift Every Voice and Sing.
We want to thank Aja Rogers for her inspiring performance. She never fails to not give me chills, so thank you. And it is now my honor to introduce our keynote speaker for this evening, Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes. Yes, yes. Mandela Barnes serves as Wisconsin's 45th Lieutenant Governor. He is the first African American to serve as Lieutenant Governor of Wisconsin and the second African American elected to statewide office. Born and raised in Milwaukee, my hometown, Lieutenant Governor Barnes is the son of a public school teacher and a manufacturing assembly line worker, a proud product of Milwaukee Public Schools and a graduate of Alabama A&M University. At the age of 25, Lieutenant Governor Barnes was elected to the Wisconsin State Assembly, where he served 2 terms. Now, as Lieutenant Governor, he serves as the chair of the Governor's Task Force on Climate Change and also serves on the Governor's Health Equity Council, Governor's Council on Financial Literacy and Capability, Wisconsin Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, Wisconsin Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women Task Force, and the statewide 2020 Census Complete Count Committee. The Lieutenant Governor uses a platform of sustainability and equity to fight for solutions that invest in opportunities and fairness for every child, person, and family in Wisconsin, regardless of zip code. So if you all can please join me in welcoming Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes. Thank you.
Good, good, good. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me this evening. Really excited to be here. It's already been a wonderful program. I'm really excited about the leadership of the Black Student Union because we need your efforts more than ever, quite possibly. A lot of people think about the past and how far we've come, and a lot of people would like to be comfortable, but there's almost a daily reminder that we can't get comfortable. So the more we get young people active and activated, the more we get people out there in communities beating the drum, literally and figuratively, the better off we'll be as a state. So I am truly, truly, again, honored to be able to speak in front of you today. And speaking of moving forward as a state, the state of Wisconsin has typically led this entire country in all areas of progress. Despite challenges that we continue to face here in this state, despite the racial disparities, despite the racial injustices that plague us and serve as a painful reminder of how far we have to go. I think about what we've done and the challenges that we met long before I got here. That's what gives me hope. And as was mentioned in the introduction, I am the second Black person elected to statewide office in Wisconsin. The first was Belle Phillips, a person who has been a hero to me, but beyond being a hero, she's just a friend when she was alive. I had the opportunity to meet and engage with her on several occasions, had a chance to spend so much time with her. And I tell you, even in her later years, in her mid-90s, she was sharp as a tack. She could recall stories and she'd be happy to talk. The only thing about it is like she would only talk to you late at night. It was the strangest thing ever, right? Like she would exclusively call you at 10 p.m. and you had to be ready to talk for at least 2 hours when you spoke to her. But I tell you, I treasure and value every second that I had a moment to talk to her because I learned something new every time. I remember one day I asked her, I said, well, Bill, when you ran for statewide office as a Black woman in the 70s, what was that like? She's like, Mandela, nobody knew I was Black. I'm like, okay, well, there was that. It was a different day and age. People didn't have their pictures on campaign literature. And she still was a groundbreaker in so many regards. The city council, first Black person to judge, first Black woman to graduate UW Law School. And the example that she set can serve as one for so many people who had never had a chance to meet her. So proud to have called her a friend. And I'm proud to have followed in her footsteps, was elected 40 years to the day after her. And I hope that it's not another 40-year gap before this happens again. And you know, it was one of those things. Like when we go through these dynamic shifts, people can get very uncomfortable at times. People can become very shocked. I like look at my picture and the guy on my shoulder. He is terrified at what happened. um, but in all honesty, in all sincerity, all jokes aside, I do look forward to maybe one of you one day stepping into office. And don't look at the other person and say you. It's going to be somebody who's here. And it's important that we have leadership that really comes from the ground up, leadership that has experienced the struggle, because that's how we work to solve all the nation's problems. And I talked about the things that we were first at, the things that this state was a trailblazer in regards to. The first state to ratify the 19th Amendment, giving women the right to vote. We're the first state to have anti-discrimination laws based on sexual orientation on the books. We were the first state to have anti-discrimination laws based on ability on the books. And we were also the first state in this country to declare the Fugitive Slave Act unconstitutional. We have done incredibly bold things before, and we find ourselves in the moment where it is necessary for us to do bold things again. I think about people who also came before Bill Phillips, people like Ezekiel Gillespie, who had the audacity to try to vote as a black man in the 1800s. And he was a former slave. He was freed. He was able to purchase his freedom. And when he went to vote, they told him no. But Ezekiel Gillespie didn't take no for an answer. And that's the resolve that we need. When we know that there's an injustice, when we've been told no, when we know that the answer should be a yes, we can't accept that no. And he took his fight to the courts. And he ultimately ended up going to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court sided with Ezekiel Gillespie. And then black people in the state of Wisconsin, black men, I should say, in Wisconsin had the right to vote. So we still had a little bit of a ways to go, but we got it half right at that point. I think about stories of people like Joshua Glover, who was a fugitive slave, and that's how we got the Fugitive Slave Act. That's what led to Wisconsin being the first state to declare the Fugitive Slave Act unconstitutional. He was jailed in Racine. He was brought to Milwaukee, and a group of abolitionists stormed the jail, set him free, and they sent him on the Underground Railroad to Canada. And what's remarkable, if you know anything about Milwaukee, we have the Bastille Day celebration, and there's a Storm the Bastille race, and it takes place really at the same spot where the jail was stormed and Ezekiel Gillespie was set free. We are a state, we are a community that is rich in history, that is rooted in justice. Now it's time for us to have a present that is rooted in justice. So I think about programs like tonight, the UW Green Bay's Kwanzaa Celebration. I think about the campus leaders who were joined with us today, people like Chancellor Michael Alexander, Mr. Corey King, Chris Kimbrough, Ingrid Parker Hill, and Rhonda Chandler. Think about the responsibility that we all have collectively to serve as support for these students. And, it can be so easy to think about our own experiences and try to dictate, what younger people should do. But I tell you, young people have been leading the way. Young people are going to continue to lead the way. All the largest social movements in this country and all across this world have been led by young people. It's something we should be proud of. But we should also make sure that we are at least saying, well, I've tried this before. We should at least say, this is something I know to be true or untrue, and I don't want you to fall into the same traps that I fell into. I want the opportunities that you have to be far greater than the opportunities that I had. And opportunity is such an important word, because when we look at the principles of Kwanzaa, unity, the ability to define yourself, collective works, cooperative economics, creativity, faith, purpose. This is all about opportunity. I was born and raised in Milwaukee. I was born in one of our most challenged communities, right on 26 and Locust. It's the heart of the 53206 zip code. That is our state's poorest. It's our nation's most incarcerated zip code. And I like to remind people that what comes with that is a whole host of tragedy. I have had friends that have lost to gun violence, had friends that gotten wrapped up in the criminal justice system. Some still are. Most who had any contact, that stuff lingers, sticks with you. And we had friends who lost to addiction. Some people we lost completely, some people who are with us physically, but only physically, not much else. And with that whole host of tragedies, the real tragedy is that it could have been either one of them on this stage tonight. We went to the same schools, lived in the same neighborhoods, but we had different opportunities. My dad worked on an assembly line third shift, and my mother's a retired public school teacher. And the modest middle income that they had was a luxury compared to a lot of people I was around. And that's where cooperative economics comes into play, because our students, our families, our communities aren't on level playing field. The game has been rigged against people who've already had it hard. And we did the land acknowledgement, and that is a painful reminder that the wealth in this nation was built off of forced labor on stolen land. And we find ourselves in today's age with the level of corporate greed, a rising inequality. You mentioned the impact on Black-owned businesses during the course of this pandemic. Well, billionaire wealth increased an additional $2 trillion over the course of this pandemic. Some people are doing okay. Some people are doing far better than they could have ever imagined, and certainly far better than the most common folks, than everyday people, than average Americans. Between 6 and 7 million new people found themselves in poverty for the first time in this country, while we see wealth increase to unimaginable sums. This is the exact opposite of cooperative economics. This is selective economics. This is rugged individualist economics. And it is a strategy, it is a path that is going to lead us to destruction if we don't do something about it. So when I think about the principles of Kwanzaa, as it is a celebratory holiday for the African American community, it could and should be celebrated in some way, acknowledged, or at least the lessons can be applied universally to all communities in this country, all communities, especially in this state. And this week, as I mentioned, celebrating the value of Ujamaa and cooperative economics, the need cannot be more apparent for us to do things much differently than they've been done before. Now, this Kwanzaa principle reflects the building, the maintaining, and success of businesses within the community, not just to generate a profit, but to actually serve, to actually be responsive to the needs of people. You know, there is very little accountability when we send all our money to the Amazons of the world. We give all our money to the Walmarts and other large corporations that, quite frankly, continue to get even wealthier while draining the resources from communities, driving out small businesses, crushing small businesses. We have to dedicate ourselves, regardless of what your background is, regardless of what neighborhoods you come from, regardless of your culture, your faith, regardless of your race. We should have a commitment to the practice of shared, equitable social wealth and the work necessary to achieve it. That's how we build a stronger state. That's how we build a stronger country. That's how we build a stronger foundation for the next generation. And I'm very proud of some of the work that we've been a part of to not just support this concept, but to more widely center equity, inclusion, and justice in all the work that we do. When I took my oath of office, I said we're going to lead with the 4 principles of equity and sustainability, meaning that every child, every person, every family will have an opportunity in the state of Wisconsin. Now, we are not there yet. I'm not going to sit here and start making up stories, but I'll say that we are well on our way, and we're in a much better place because we have the ideas, we have the vision, but most importantly, we have the desire to do things different. We have the desire to do things better, to right the wrongs of the past. And so often it can be easy to ignore those harsh realities, sweeping things under the rug. We know that's how things get worse. The first step to fixing any problem, any issue, is to first admit that there is a problem and there is an issue. And when we took office a few years ago, we acknowledged the fact that Wisconsin has the highest rate of Black male incarceration, 14%, twice the national average. We acknowledge the fact that we have these opportunity gaps that continue to widen in education. We acknowledge the fact that economics is not the same depending on what neighborhood you come from. But with that acknowledgement, that means, all right, you better get to planning now. And our planning wasn't just done in some insular way. We involved people. We brought together impacted communities. I can't tell you how many meetings I've been a part of discussing an issue where no person who was impacted by that issue was present. I always think about a story where I was at a meeting, a summit on poverty, and we went into breakout groups. And I looked around. I was familiar enough with the people in my breakout group at the table, and I was like, all right, well, has anybody experienced poverty recently? And nobody raised their hands. I'm like, well, all right, well, we're not going to solve this problem today. If you are trying to address an issue, you can be the most well-intentioned person. You can be the most well-read, well-studied, well-versed person. But if you are only going off your own experience, which is no experience with the issue, then you're doing yourself a disservice. You're only spinning your wheels. You're only wasting time. And that's not an indictment on anybody who's doing the work. I just want us to do the work more fruitfully. I just want us to do the work more effectively. And I'm saying this to myself as well. I always have to be sure to look around in the rooms that I'm in. I have to be sure to think about the conversations that I'm a part of. With our climate change task force, we brought together impacted communities, small businesses, farmers, labor unions. We brought together all sorts of folks who represented or come from low income and marginalized communities in the conversation, because these are the folks who are impacted by climate change the most. You know, if everybody started using paper straws and recycled every bit they could recycle, bought an electric vehicle, our largest corporations in this country would still attribute 70% of emissions. So there is a certain responsibility that we don't just have to bring up. There's a certain responsibility that in many ways we have to force. We can't think of we can't think of the work that we do in organizing as something that is something that makes it tougher for the most powerful. Sometimes the most powerful, the most wealthy need to get a little uncomfortable, because we've been uncomfortable for way too long. Yeah, I've started in organizing. I was with an interfaith social justice organization called MICA, Milwaukee Inner City Congregations Ally for Hope, and that it is churches, mosques, synagogues, other faith communities gather in the cause of social justice. Our issues are jobs and economic development, education, immigration reform, and treatment instead of prison. Quite simply, our work was to make life better for the people around us, because life has been too tough for people for far too long. And knowing that sometimes we had to make the powerful uncomfortable, we had to sometimes show up to elected officials' offices to demand more. But that's okay. You know, I've had people come to my office before who were upset. There was a group of young folks, I'll name them, the Youth Climate Action Team. They showed up to my office one day. They want to talk about climate change. They came in hot. They were frustrated and upset, and they should have been. But I was like, hey, you know, you gotta stop yelling at me about something I agree with you on. Like, we're in this together. We're all trying to do the same thing. It's a whole lot of people who are against us. Let's figure this out. And you know, one of the people who showed up to the office, she's an intern in my office now. She was a part of that climate change task force. And that's why it's important for us to listen. And when we listen to people and their valid concerns, if we have the power, if we have the ability, we have to empower those same folks to help rise above the struggles that exist. And equity, inclusion, and justice have been pillars of my work as lieutenant governor. They've been pillars of our work as an administration, because it's so important. I talk about these things when I'm outside of Milwaukee. I talk about these things when I'm outside of Madison, because the plight of Black and brown people in Milwaukee, in the cities, impacts quality of life for people all the way up north of Hayward. It impacts the quality of life for people in La Crosse, right here in Green Bay, everywhere. People can believe that they're in this on their own all they want to, but it's not true. And the pandemic is the best example of that. No matter how far you think you are away from the realities that people are going through, it's going to impact you at some point, one way or another. And the sooner people realize, the sooner people begin to hear and empathize with the stories and realities of others, the better we'll be off, because we've been grappling with racial injustice and disparities for far too long. But it's been the thing that nobody's wanted to take on, because it's not easy. The solutions, they aren't sexy. It's not the thing you can always go on the campaign trail and start talking about. But you got to start thinking about things in more than political terms. You have to think about things in terms of reality, and not just our own reality, the reality of the people we are around. And that's why the last year and a half, whether it was the pandemic, whether it was the uprising, the reckoning racial justice, people in communities across this state, people in communities across this country, and communities that always weren't particularly diverse, stepping up and stepping out, demanding better. Even though something like that hadn't happened in their communities, they didn't want it, because people began to realize how much more, began to realize much more how connected we are. And this last year and a half, this last 2 years has only renewed our focus and our commitment to making Wisconsin a healthier, stronger, more equitable, a more sustainable place than it's ever been before. Because as we continue to focus on a just and equitable recovery from the pandemic, it feels like every time we get a little bit out, we fall a little bit deeper into it. That's another story for another day. I'm not a scientist. I'm not an epidemiologist. I just know that this is frustrating. And I know you feel the same way. But in order for us to build those healthy communities in a healthier state, we have to make equity, and especially equity and opportunities for communities of color and other marginalized communities, a priority. When we talk about health outcomes, let's talk about the social determinants of health. Let's talk about how housing impacts a person's health. Let's talk about how housing impacts education. Let's talk about how food access impacts education. Let's talk about how food access impacts health and so many other issue areas. We got to start digging beneath the surface. We can't just take on the fights at the easy stage of the game. We have to get real serious and get to the core, get to the root of our issues so that we can solve problems, not just for today, but solve problems well into the future. And when considering the value of Ujamaa, we have to recognize that not everybody has the same access. Not everybody has the same resources made available to them. Not everybody can just go out there and start and own and successfully run a business. In Wisconsin, people of color and other underrepresented entrepreneurs need an equal playing field. That's what equity is about. If we're truly going to create equitable economic opportunities in our community, a lot of times people will point and look at the negative things that happen in the neighborhood, but they won't factor in the economic health of that community. It won't factor in the health in general of that community. Instead of pointing fingers, let's ask why, and let's get the problem solving. Finger pointing has never gotten anything done. And again, these continue to be priorities of our administration. We prioritize numerous investments and programs that were designed to offer support for underrepresented entrepreneurs. In the last round of entrepreneurship support grants, the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation funded programs that will help teach people of color agriculture skills. And we know this country has a very deep legacy of more stolen land from Black communities, farmland that was basically robbed from Black farmers across this country. We also funded a unique job training program that prepares people to operate heavy equipment in just weeks. There was a Milwaukee commercial kitchen that serves as an incubator for food businesses, a program that teaches people who've been incarcerated how to become entrepreneurs. And on the topic of incarceration, one reason why our incarceration rate is so high because we got folks in there for nonviolent offenses, people in there with mental health issues that could be better served in institutions to help them get better, because warehousing folks is not going to get the job done either. In fact, it makes outcomes worse when they return to society. They come back broken people with nowhere to turn and most likely end up back in prison. And also, we got a lot of people in our prison system who are in jail for things that people are becoming millionaires for in most other states in this country. And that's a real shame. And I've always been an advocate of, of legalization of cannabis in the state, because that's how we work to create equity. I'm not gonna make a cooperative economic joke there because it's not the time and the place, but people have been figuring it out for a while, and unfortunately have been going to jail for very small amounts. And that continues to be the harsh reality that folks deal with. And I always said, once we do legalize in this state, the people who have been in prison obviously should have their records expunged, but they should also have first dibs at employment in the industry, first dibs at being able to own and operate dispensaries and farms as well. That's how we truly right the wrongs of the past. That's how we truly make individuals and communities whole again. And I think about some other things. In October, the governor announced 2 new competitive grant programs that total $75 million to support diverse business investment in communities disproportionately impacted by the pandemic specifically. And these are grants that will help make sure that some of our hardest hit communities have a fighting chance to rebound and recover, while also ensuring that Wisconsin can move forward and build a more prosperous and equitable future for everybody. And there's a supplier diversity program And this has been in operation for decades. And out of the decades that the program has been in operation, they've only hit the modest goal of 5% 4 times. I'm happy that one of those times was last year, but we got to do way better. First, we got to up the goals. And second of all, we got to be consistent in the opportunities that we provide for people. And I tell you, like, people got to get out of the mindset that one person's opportunity does not impugn another person's prosperity. In fact, we all do better when we all do better. And while I'm incredibly proud of the work that we have been doing, trust me, I'm not here to brag because we are just so far behind. We still got a really, really long way to go. But we know that the only way we move forward is when we move together. We move in concert with respect for one another, regardless of your background, regardless of where you come from, regardless of your socioeconomic status currently, regardless of other factors that may have held you down in the past. We got to start wiping that slate clean, make sure that folks can be on solid footing, make sure that quality of life in the zip code where I was born can be just as great as quality of life in a zip code 10 miles up the road, where we have some of the wealthiest individuals in this state. And we need federal leadership, we need state leadership, we need local leadership, but most importantly, we need you. We need you all to demand more, because there are still so many people out there in elected offices across the state that just don't get it. And they're going to continue to pretend that they don't get it until they start hearing from people, until they start hearing from you, regardless of what race you are, regardless of your culture, regardless of what neighborhood you live in. If you are not from a marginalized community, it's even more important that you step up. If you hold some sort of power, if you hold some sort of wealth, your voice is that much more critical. It is that much more necessary. We need more allies in this fight. We need more people who are going to stand up and demand more, not just for themselves, but to demand more for somebody else who has nothing, for somebody else who has very little. And being here on the UW Green Bay campus, I'd be remiss not to highlight the efforts on campus and others across the state in recognizing how this work encapsulates the Wisconsin idea. The Wisconsin idea is something I feel is a living thing. It changes day to day. It changes with generations. It changes over the years. It changes for the times. And the time that we are in is a critical one. I've never felt the urgency that I felt now. And it's not only that education and research should influence people's lives beyond the boundaries of the classroom, but that it truly does have a global impact. And the only way we have a global impact is when we start locally. It's the voices, it's the perspectives, it's the experiences, it's the knowledge, most importantly, the advocacy of people that are here tonight that will push for the change that we all deserve, that will push the envelope, that will do something that not only makes somebody else uncomfortable when things are going wrong, but also push to make yourself uncomfortable. That's how we grow. That's how we make things better. That's how we improve the quality of life for everybody around us. And I just want to thank everybody for having me here tonight. I want to wish everybody a happy Kwanzaa. I want to wish everybody a happy and safe holiday season. Stay safe, stay well, keep the people around you close. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes, for your thoughtful, provoking remarks. On behalf of University of Wisconsin Green Bay, we thank you for taking time to be here with us tonight. We want to now share a pre-recorded rendition of Yin Year, Guma, and Venermos, We Shall Overcome from Washington Middle School.
And can we just please give them another round of applause? Thank you. Yes, yes. Thank you to Keith Griffin from Green Bay Area Public Schools for providing these recordings. And just shout out to the girl who was hiding her face with the folder, cause same. But now we have a chance to learn and play together with Kahoot if you want. This is open to our virtual attendees as well. You can get Kahoot on your browser, any type of technological thing going on, your phone, tablet, desktop, if you're a little old school. Um, and click on the answer that you want to select. This is going to test your knowledge on how much you really know and how much you were paying attention today. So all y'all better win. That's all I'm trying to say. But, but so this should be. Okay, it will be pulled up in a second. And if you guys cannot see that, the pin to Kahoot is 027-324-04, and you can also get it on your browser at kahoot.it if you cannot find it. Okay, so it looks like we got our winners. So first place. Oh, it ain't over. It ain't over. Oh, 16? Oh, I don't know if you first place, but I was kidding. You know what? That's a possibility. It is. No, just kidding. Just kidding. Well, what we have so far, the winner is Parker Hill. Yes. Yes, yes. Second place is Chris. Who is Chris? Yeah, okay. And third place is APB, our own EBAR member. Yes, yes. Well, thank you all for joining us and playing. We know who was paying attention. No, just kidding. But thank you so much, everyone. And now I'm going to bring onto the stage Sierra for our conclusion, and Hannah as well.
Thank you everyone for participating. This concludes our Kwanzaa event for our virtual attendees. Please fill out our survey so we can improve for next year. There will be 5 lucky students who can win a prize $20 Amazon gift card. Winners will be contracted separately through email. Thank you again. And then we also want to thank the drummers, Jalen and Rakeen. And then happy Kwanzaa, everyone.
Okay, so now it's time for everybody's favorite part, the food. We have 2 catering tables set up. One is going to be